one who introduced um, what a funnel is and what I was supposed to do with the funnel. And he started by having me develop 4 to 5 videos that would go online and kind of introduce people to my workshops. Now, I'll be honest with you, I haven't even taped those yet, but
Oh,
this was like where he was starting. Like, what can you do to introduce people to what you offer and get them interested in your business? So I still think
yeah.
that's going to be a really good thing, but there's so much going on. I don't want people to be afraid to step into it, but be aware that there's many like, shifts and changes and different things that'll happen as you go through this. So
Yeah.
he said to me, "Can you come up with 4 less than 5-minute videos that you could put on for free?" And I have the scripts written and all that. I did all that right away. And those funnel videos ended up being these, and I will still do them. But this is what you can look at as far as like where you're developing. So don't be afraid to just write notes, have no clue what you're doing, and just throw stuff on a piece of paper because it really helped. I would bring him these pieces of paper and I'd be like, "Is this what you're talking about?" And he would be like, "Yeah, that's what I'm talking about." And so this was kind of my first attempt at moving into what does it look like to flow people into your business. And it
Mm.
doesn't matter what your business is. I mean, a lot of people might look and go, "Well, marriage counseling, how does that really need this kind of a business funnel?" But it doesn't matter what the business is. And so then I just started making notes on, well, what would I put in it? What would I include in that video? And this was like moving towards the script. So it also helps you get your brain to think logically and decently and in order, as the Bible says,
Yes.
as far as what you're actually offering. Because I always felt didn't know how to like narrow it down when people would ask me things about like, what am I doing and all that. Well, when we were doing both marriages and childbirth, it was super confusing for people. So a big thing I've learned over the last couple of years is focus on one thing first. You can always add something else later. So that's where I felt like I'm going to just focus on the marriage counseling and what does that mean for people and all of that. So then I developed actually, this is my very first funnel diagram that I put together. Okay.
Looks so complicated.
And it's actually so simplistic, and I know it might be a little hard to read, but basically it was, okay, the free videos, free videos, free videos. And then my mentor talked about, well, can you offer maybe a little workshop or something in between that, you could put people into. And so we were developing that. And then they kept telling me, "You're not charging enough." And I kept being like, you know, uh, but, and they were the ones, him and his daughter, who kept pounding into me, "You do realize you have a PhD, right? You do realize that you're a doctor. You do realize that you have value to what you're offering people." And, I always felt like as a Christian, I just want to, help people, which
Sure.
is true, but you can't run a business on just helping people. So,
No.
and you can't be there to help the next person if
Mhm.
that doesn't happen. So part of this also within it was, you need to charge a lot more. But then if you feel led by God to do it as a ministry for a particular couple, you always have that option, but not just having everybody come thinking they're going to get it for free.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so I had to build that up. And what I came up with was introducing a workshop, the individual intensives, because I do marriage intensives. They're 5 days for 3 hours a day. And then my mentor had suggested, well, maybe like a year after they do that, you could offer like a mastermind workshop. So
Okay.
keeping a lot of this is like stuff I had not really thought of,
Hmm.
but started to make sense. And then later I could train churches or things like that. So this kind of sets up like what's the progression for your clients even. People don't think about that. They don't always stop and think about, okay, so they could do the workshop or they could do the private intensive and then they could do the mastermind later. So
Mhm.
this was kind of where that focus came in. And they kept reminding me, what's the cost of a divorce? If you're for, your fees. You're looking at, they either pay for the marriage intensive and save their marriage, or they're looking at the cost of a divorce.
Ah,
And as I kind of, and it's not just the cost in money, although that's what I have up here, but it's the cost spiritually, it's the cost emotionally for everybody
yes.
involved. And so that also helps with the funnel as far as how do you promote different levels? What are you going to do? And so I have here Colorado Springs. Since then, I have looked nationally at the cost of a divorce, and the average is $15,000. And these numbers are per person.
Oh, my.
This is not for the whole thing. This is per person. So even this number you see right here is per person.
Mm.
So if you look at that, then the cost of my workshop, my intensive, which is now $3,200, isn't really that much. And that's
No, not at
in
all.
addition. Yeah. So then he said, develop that introductory workshop. And I put, he said, because it's very easy to see the value in something and then also later see that it was kind of not really the direction you were supposed to go. So when you're developing this, be prepared to spend a lot of time doing something that turns out to not be part of your funnel. I mean, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, how do I move through this and be okay with things that aren't going to happen? So I did, and I developed he said, what do you have that wouldn't be in the marriage intensives? And I had come up with this, with the the trauma stuff you mentioned, I do some trauma stuff, is like, because I take a body, mind, spirit approach to everything I do, it was more of a, what does trauma do to you physically? What can you do health-wise for this trauma? And I developed an entire presentation, actually a two-parter, that was these like 90-minute workshops. And I'm not doing them right now. Now, let me just tell you that the process was like, what could I talk about? So I had to think about like what things would go into a workshop, and you would do this with any type of book or teaching or
Sure.
presentation that you would do. You would just want to brainstorm. And then,
Mhm.
sorry, I hit my thing too fast. And then why they get stuck. And when they're stuck, that affects how you communicate in your marriage.
Mhm.
So there was that connection to it, but it's not directly linked to it. And then how do you stop feeding your brain addiction, your trauma addiction,
Yeah.
all of that. And then I looked at it as a mini workshop. I mean, there was all kinds of avenues. And I wanted to talk about this, Sharon, because I want people to understand you're going to come up with amazing, fantastic ideas that aren't going to go anywhere.
Right. Right.
That's
And you and when
okay.
you create it, you think, "Oh, but this is wonderful," and then it doesn't play out. Yes.
It doesn't. And
Yeah.
so I thought, well, I could do this as a mini workshop with churches in particular. That has not played out. This was like spring of 2022. I've developed this. It's not fully played out at this point. Doesn't mean it won't.
Right, and
It
that's
doesn't.
exactly what I was thinking, is that sometimes it just doesn't play out right then.
Correct.
Sometimes it's a wait.
Yes. And so I'm thinking at this point, I'm glad I have the material pretty well ready. I could always tape it as an online class that people could,
Mhm.
buy or sign up for.
Sure.
I can do it as a Zoom webinar. And really, I will just put out there right now, if people are interested in this as a Zoom webinar, let me know. And
Yeah,
I can schedule a time to do that.
absolutely.
Yeah. And so, this was just brainstorming like, oh, wouldn't this look great? And here would be the content that I could present. Whoops, sorry, that I could present to like a pastor or show them what's going to be involved. And even, my own church, it's like I often feel like, the prophets are never welcome in their own home. I
Yes.
don't know if you feel that way sometimes, but I often feel that way. Like I try so hard to give to them or show them something, or, and I
Well,
don't
it's
know
just
what it is.
like it is the same, you have to remind yourself that even Jesus was not accepted. But aren't you just the carpenter's son? You know? So
Yeah.
so you have to have that reminder that and it's hard sometimes to not take it personal, but
Well,
that's just the way that it
mhm.
is sometimes. Mhm.
Yes, and it's interesting because just like within the last 2 weeks, I was trying to present with my church, oh, I could do this for the church or that for the church. And they're like, oh, you're way beyond what we want to do. Like what I
Mm.
offer is like way beyond what they want to do. We love what you do. We love how it changes people's lives, but it's just
A
not
little too much for
it's a
what
little
they're
too much for
expecting. Yeah.
us. Yeah.
A little too extra.
Yeah. A little too extra, I guess.
That
That's a good
extra,
word.
yeah.
Yeah. So then I just kind of came up with how would the workshop flow. And one of the things that I missed here that I think is important is you always want to look at what are you including and what's the value of what you're including, which I've really developed this in the past in 2023 more so than in 2022. But that was one of the things my mentor was talking about as you're doing these funnels. You want to start looking at the value of each step, like
Mhm.
what could people pay? What are you going to charge? And then you have to start looking at value. So when I said, the webinar is 90 minutes, well, there's a workbook, there's the teachings, there's all these things. And really, a lot of people charge well over $400 for what
Mhm.
I was offering. And at the time, I was just wanting to charge like $50 or whatever, just help cover printing and things to get the materials out there
One
because
thing one thing that I could suggest too is if a person is not sure, they can always go online and look at someone that's doing something that's somewhat similar, even
Mhm.
if it's not the same subject, but just the like you're saying, like your webinar and your workbook and things like that. And what are other people charging to give them a guideline
Absolutely.
of what they should say that the value is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've done a lot of that work, especially when it comes to the workshop, which I'll talk about a little bit more how I develop that. But looking at what do people charge for marriage workshops and what are you getting for what they're charging? So it kind of like you're going to fall in different categories sometimes,
Yeah.
but it's like my cost is higher than what, I don't know, say Life Network might charge, or what's that one? There's a marriage weekend to remember and all that. But what people have told me about those is like there's 400 people in a room. You get a workbook, they're showing videos and talking, and then you're supposed to be able to go home and do it. And
Oh, wow.
actually, yeah. And actually, what I'm offering is we're going to go through the workbook. You're going to do it right there. I'm going to help you with it. You're going to go home having actually done and practiced some of these things,
Mhm.
not at the level I could in a private intensive, but you certainly are going to go home having actually experienced it. And that was the difference. And I had to look at that, and just say, so I will honestly tell you, I'm still trying to figure out how to really communicate that well to people. Um, but don't worry
Well,
about
I
it.
was talking to someone yesterday that I was helping. I was coaching. So to what it sounds like to me is just need to really promote your personal aspect. This is not just
Right,
webinars. This is not just a workbook. This is not just pen and paper or
right.
digital, but this is your personal time and energy being put into this, and that they're going to have that personal experience. And so I think a lot of times people these days get stuck on because it's so easy to get information everywhere. You can go anywhere and get information.
Yes,
But
yes,
what you're offering is so much more than information. You're offering you, and they can't
yes.
get you anywhere but with you.
Right. So
Yes.
that's, I will be honest, as when you're developing your funnel, and I agree with you completely, Sharon, don't worry about it that yet.
Mhm.
Because if all I did was think about, I don't know how to do that, I'm not really good at that, then it sort of will stop me from actually just developing what I want people to
Right.
understand about what I have to offer. I'm terrible at that self-promotion. I People tell me all the time, like, oh, you really offer a lot. And I have a really hard time with the telling people that, like, this is why I'm so special almost.
Right,
And I,
that's that Christian
yes,
belief there, yes, that comes into,
yeah,
but at the same time, need to always just remember that, um, you're created in God's image, and that
right,
right there makes you awesome. So I have a saying, like when people say, "Hi, how are you today?" I say, "I'm awesome. How are you?" And
right.
it just makes people stop. They're like, "What?"
Yes,
You know?
yes,
And so
yeah,
because
and
they're and it's not be and then sometimes I do stop and explain because they seem so in shock that I would say that.
right,
Um, it's not because I'm anything special, but I am just because I'm
right,
created in his image. No other reason. It's nothing about
right,
me. It has nothing to do with me.
right.
It's only because I serve an awesome God.
I agree with you. And so it's like really
And so,
hard. I'll tell you what's hard with for me. And I'm learning to actually tell people this, but it was really hard because of that being accused of being prideful. That's a Christian thing. We're always trying to be humble. And so when you say something good about yourself, there's almost this, okay, now I'm going to be prideful. But I've
yes,
really learned to start telling people that one thing I know about myself is I am really a good teacher. I love teaching and I'm amazing at teaching people something.
yes. And you have a
And
passion for it.
yes,
And and that's
mhm,
not something that's being pushed, that's something that's natural for you. And so you need to be able to express
right.
that that is your passion. Yes.
Yes. And so I think the enemy uses these Christian guilts almost or
Yes.
scriptures to kind
To
of try
stop
to
us.
stop us. And
Hmm.
so that's why the reason I think it's important that we've spent time on this is because it'll keep you from even writing on a piece of paper something like what I have in front of you right now. Like, what am I
Yes.
trying to get people to understand? What are questions that I hear people ask about this? And so then I ended up making my second funnel, which looked more like this, where basically it was free videos, and then the free videos could put them into that workshop at the church or into the other webinars that I was doing myself, with the goal being they'd either go, I ended up putting the marriage workshop into two parts because there's so much material. And that was very interesting as far as figuring out, well, what would be the most important thing first and what would be just adjuncts to the marriage, things like that. So you have to think about, am I offering too much at one time? And because I can
Yeah.
flood people, and you can
Yeah.
probably
And
tell.
the confused mind says no. So to keep your, like you're saying, to keep it
Yeah,
clear, so that they can have that clarity. Hmm.
yes, yes. And you can probably even tell here, I have a lot and I talk quickly and I put a lot out there and I'm trying to slow myself down to even help, people here. And so this allowed me to do that, to kind of slow down by putting it into two separate workshops. The
Yes.
first one costing more because you get all the materials, and then the second part costing less, which still comes out about half of a private intensive. It's like even the two together. So when you're looking at what am I going to offer, and how's my funnel going to look, you want to think about that. Should I
Yeah.
break this down? Should I offer this differently? And
Mhm.
then the other, whoops, the I know I can't get this to work, right? But thanks everybody for your patience. Um, so down at the bottom, which is where I was trying to get it, or they could go into a private intensive, and out of either one of these, once they've done the two workshops or the private, they could go into like what's called a mastermind, which would be a small group of people who have done this. They come back in, they kind of refresh, they each sort of talk about how they've done different things. So this was my second funnel, and you can see up here it was on January 28th in 2022. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's important. So here I was like, okay, let me develop the workshops. And this was just an example again, writing out what I was going to offer and how it might look so that I could have a better idea if people asked, well, what's this about? Like if I showed a pastor my funnel or whatever, I would have a clear idea of what I was offering in the two workshops. When it came to the private intensive, I didn't have to do anything. I've been doing those for like 15 years. So I
Mhm.
absolutely know exactly what a private intensive would look like, other than the individuality of the couple and having to kind of flow with what their needs are.
Right.
Otherwise, I know what that's going to look like. So
Mhm.
then, so this was again that second funnel after I had everything done. So there were two pathways on the funnel that people could come in. They could go directly to the workshop, and then learn about the work. I mean, go directly to the mini workshop at a church or something, and then go directly from there, or they could watch the videos and they could end up in those places too. So, then I still had all these programs to work on. So don't, I think I sometimes felt like before I could do a funnel or understand the funnel, I had to have all those ready. And you
Mm.
don't. You just have to
Yeah.
know where you're going. You just have to know. So I was still working the private intensive. How do I present it? You know, how do I let people know what's going on there? I didn't need to do a lot. The mastermind class is still not developed. And then the training for the churches would be a last point, and those are not developed. So
Yes,
it's okay to start moving on your funnel,
that's right.
even if you don't have the bottom finished. And I
Yeah.
wanted people to
But that's the
understand
thing
that.
that everyone needs to remember is you only have to be a couple of steps ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
here I had this funnel two. Looks good. Probably as a business person, you're probably like, okay, that's great. Let's, you can move on this. And then God at the beginning of 2023 said, we're going to, or in the fall of 2022, pivot. Now,
Uh,
these are just diagrams of things I do. And the pivot was not the workshop that I had developed. The pivot was offering, it's called Our Marriage Checkup, and it's an hour and a half, and they do this assessment for me. And then I can tell them what's going on with their marriage. I can show them how they're stuck in their trigger pains, and then what would happen in an intensive. And so later I am offering a special price on this. So I pivot into this. I had somebody say to me, wait a minute, you talk to people for free on that? That's not a free thing. And so what ended up happening was this company that does these assessments, it's called the Taylor Johnson Temperament Analysis. It's the only assessment I use, but it shows me like how much depression, anxiety people have, different things. And it's a way of showing how you're acting and interacting with each other. And I was doing it in my office, but now they have it set up online and I have to pay a fee for that. So that's why I have to charge a little bit of a fee, because I have to pay for that to be done. But if they do sign up for the marriage intensive, or they'll get credited back the amount they paid for this, because this is stuff I would do early in that as well. So the pivot was not the workshops to get them in, it's this.
yes, yes.
And
Okay.
go ahead. I just was
And
going to say
and this is just, can you explain what this does for them,
this
for your
this
client?
introductory,
Mhm.
okay. The marriage checkup, what it does is it shows you where you're starting from. Like a lot of people are like, I don't understand why, or what's going on, why I say something that I think is relatively innocent, and then my spouse is going totally ballistic on me, and I don't even know why. And
Okay.
this right here is why. This is what I call pain buttons. And we all come into a marriage with these. So anytime you hit one of these, they go ballistic. They don't even know why, because they're arguing about the event. And really the problem is a heart condition, like they were damaged as a child, or they're reacting to those. This is my favorite tool ever, because couples tell me all the time, have you been in my house watching us? Because this is pretty accurate if they answer it accurately
Okay.
to what's going on. Now, on this one in particular, this is anxiety, this is depression, this is how active or social a person is. And I always have them answer it at their worst time in their life. Now, some people may have run into this at work or something, and they just answered how they felt that day. And that's not really the effectiveness of this tool. The tool is, what do I do when I'm in pain? And that's what you and your spouse are seeing in each other. And so this, they get non-active or social, they get very inhibited or quiet. This score right here is like sympathy or a mercy score. This couple right here, look at those mercy scores. So
Yeah.
how do you think they're interacting with each other? Me first, me first, me first.
Yeah.
You hurt me.
Not
No,
real.
you hurt me. No, you hurt me. And so I have to help them reverse that. And I can show them this is what you're doing right here. And then this is rejection pain. And look at how high. And that leads to depression, anxiety. We have dominance, we have anger and bitterness. And then we have like impulsive, like how well they get things done even when they're in pain. So I use this and it helps me to see like how are they affecting each other. So like right here, we've got some differences on anxiety. They see themselves lower or higher. And the solid lines are themselves, like the blue is the wife and the red is the husband, and then the broken line is what the other spouse said. And on this one in particular, two things might be going on. The spouse is causing more anxiety, or the person's not aware of how high their anxiety is, and I have to figure that out. So
Yeah.
this helps me to show them, this is what we're going to figure out in the intensive. This is why you have that ballistic reaction you weren't really expecting. And I've added a third one that's not on this slide, and that's what I call the crazy cycle. So, you know, I do this, then he does this, which causes me to do this more, which causes him to do that more. And when they can see that, I can then say, what I'm going to help you with is spiritually in the intensive, forgiveness, pride work, and then a sexual sin that's getting in the way of connecting. And then I'm able to help you with how to talk to each other's hearts instead of the head, or instead of your own emotional. And if you focus to care for her, she focuses to care for him, you're both going to get what you want and need.
Yes.
But people don't always know that's what they need to do. So this just helps them with that. And then there was another addition that I'll talk about a little bit later. So now I'm on funnel number 3, which funnel number 3 was in September of 2022 when I was like, okay, now I called it a meet and greet at the time. Now I call it your marriage checkup, because it's like if you went to the doctor and they said, all they were saying was, here's what's wrong, here's what we would do to fix it. So that's essentially, it's just like, well, you're going to the doctor, but it's not a medical doctor. And basically I'm telling you, this is what's wrong, and this is what you would do to fix it. Now, this looks super complicated with all the lines on it. And it took me a little, yeah, but it took me a little while to sit with this. So as you pivot and things change, what I'm trying to do is either get people into the workshop or into the private intensives at this point. So if I can get them to the meet and greet, or I get the videos up, they'll be able to go through the videos, or they go to my landing page. So I created a new website. So now I've got that, because the church mini workshop thing was not working out. So you just shift your funnel. Go ahead.
Yep.
You shift it to fit where you're at.
That's right.
Everything here is leading to, I would like to get people here at the meet and greet, because I have over a 90% success rate of, if I can get them in there, they will then want to do the workshop or the intensive, because they'll really understand there is something they can do about it. And like you said, Sharon, they actually meet me. They see me, they see how I'm approaching them. And people feel with that assessment, that TJTA, that I really am coming from a place of really caring for them, and doing it from that spiritual place of really caring, emotional place, and all that. Now, a lot of people will do these intensives and they train to do it as a lay counselor, which is fine if all you're going to do is the marriage counseling. But for me as a doctor with my trauma history, I can actually do more with people, because I can also look at those issues.
Yes.
So I get them in here. Now this is the main thing. From here, I want to get them into the intensive, or I want to get them into the workshops. So the landing page comes here. They just come here. That comes here. And then workshop part 1, they might sign up for that, which, might take them here, might take them to a workshop part 2, or take them to the intensive. So this looks super confusing, but it's really not. Now this, I'll do it as a premarital intensive as well. So that's just kind of dropped there. It's really alongside. Then we have the mastermind, and then still the idea of training churches. So to
Yes.
you, this probably looks not so complicated because you're used to looking at funnels.
Yes, and let me ask, is there a tool that you are using that others can use to map this out?
I did not. I actually kind of did this freehand, actually, I think on Word, just doing
Okay.
text boxes and drawing lines. And I'm sure there's tools out there, but I tend to be I see it, let me just put it on a piece of paper kind of person.
Yes.
But I think you're right. You probably would have a better idea of tools than I would on this. So here's my third tool, my third one. And then 2023, God said, you need to look at marketing. So what marketing does, what does that do to my funnel? Well, it introduces some new elements. So one of the things when I developed the new website was a free marriage quiz, because you have to have something in marketing that draws people in, gets them on your email list, things like that.
That's
And
right.
so I developed this, and this then shows them kind of how they score. And then they get an automated email based on their score, as far as like, hey, totally green light. You guys are doing great. Less than 10% of couples, by the way, but you
I'm
still might want
sure.
to go through the workbook together or something like that. Hey, yellow light, you're starting to slip. You might want to do an intensive before things get too bad. Then I have another yellow light where things are getting bad, so you better start paying attention. And then kind of the red light of, you are on the steps of divorce court. You either need to do something right now or it's going to be over.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
once they do that, then this, I have a card I passed out, and it's got one of these on each side. And this marriage checkup, I gave you a coupon code that your listeners can get it for half off.
Yes. Yes.
Because like I said, I do still have to pay for the TJTA. So that's kind of really
Understood. Yes.
all that's getting paid for. So I'm at a point, believe it or not, I need funnel number 4. Let me go up to 3 again. Because that introductory marriage quiz would now kind of be a primary place for them to be able to start too. And that needs to be added in. But what this has done for me this year is it guides and directs what my focus needs to be on, like what I need to still develop, where my focus needs to be, and then even the marketing. Like what am I marketing? And if I don't have the funnel, then I could be marketing all over the place and not focusing on where I really need to have that focus. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So this is where, you can get your discount code.
Right.
But this was
And
sort of
for
my
anyone
process.
for everyone that's wanting that, you can just contact me as well. I see she's got it on the screen now, but you can contact me and I'll get that to you as well if you want
Yeah.
it to send to you.
Yeah. So if they go to, I see I didn't put the actual website up there, did I?
I have that and I can post that.
Yeah, it's dunamasmarriages.com, that DUNAMAS marriages.com. And the free quiz will pop up on the front page, or you can see, even like you said, you would post the postcards, like right here, you can click the QR code. Oh, here it is,
Mhm.
dunamasmarriages.com. Or you can click the QR codes and it'll take you directly to it.
Yes, great.
So that's been my process, and I love sharing, like when I learn something. And my main thing is, don't get overwhelmed. It's okay that you don't know what you don't know, and that you got to figure out what you don't know, and then learn it. And don't be afraid to just write stuff down and even go, well, that's kind of stupid, and then erase it, or, oh, I didn't realize that that would be a great thing to pursue.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah, that is all very good. Well, I want to say just a couple of notes is that I love how you showed it was not one and done.
right.
For a person starting out, they might think, oh, well, let me just build this funnel. And in a year, 3 years, 5 years, I'm just going to be set for life.
Right.
And that's just not how it is. We
No.
have to adjust. And as you said, pivot. We just have to constantly pivot, either because things that we have personally learned and we can pivot and make it better from there, or maybe because of the times, things that are
Yeah.
going on around the world and why we need to pivot. But I love that you showed how you pivoted time after time to continue to tweak it and get it to where at
Right.
that time it was the best that it could be.
Right. Like
But
my
but
very
then a few months later, that time was the best that it could be. And
correct,
then you'll build another one in 2024 and it will be the
probably.
best one. It will be the best one for you at that time and for your clients. So I love that that you shared that.
Yeah. And the very first one, when I took it to my mentor, he goes, yeah, that's a good start. And then he started pointing in between things like, well, how are you going to do this? And what about that? And, so if you have somebody who you can work with you, like, I think, is this part of what you do, Sharon, is to help people with this stuff too?
Yes, I do
Yeah.
a little I do some of the coaching, so I can help a person um mentally, emotionally get to that place and know
Right.
what they need to do next. So yes, I can help with that as well.
Yeah. Cause I
So
think that that's important.
yes, oh
Yeah.
absolutely. I also love how you were able to, I know this is going to sound like a pun, but marry your passions.
Yeah.
So you were able to take your passion for couples and people with trauma, how you can help them, and also marry it over to the funnels, which you in time became passionate about, and make them into one so that you can help. Right now you're helping people with the passion of funnels, but you're also able to blend it very well with what your passion has always been. So I love how you've been able to do that as well.
And I really want to encourage people because I don't, like I said, care what the business is. So, even if, say, you're doing like a multi-level marketing vitamin company, just for an example, you can find like the avenue within that. That's your favorite product or your favorite avenue or whatever. And you could create a funnel out of getting people into other products by using an introduction through that. And I agree with you when you said it's about who you are, because believe it or not, even in my counseling office, I've gotten many multi-level marketing people, many doing vitamins, different
Yeah,
companies. And they're always like, oh, I don't know why my business isn't going. But so I end up doing that spiritual emotional coaching too. And my question is always, why should they buy from you?
that's
And
right.
they go, well, the company, this and that. I go, I didn't even ask you a thing about the company. I asked you why you. I said, right now, I could probably tell you 50 people that I know or know of who are selling vitamins.
Yes.
So why you? And you're exactly right. If you can bring that into your funnel and find a way to make, maybe you do a funnel with this product, and then after it's really going well, you pivot and you do another one through another direction or through both of them or something like that. So,
Yes.
yeah, I just like to
Yep.
see people healthy and productive, whatever
Right.
that
And
looks
putting that personal aspect into it is key.
like. Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when I do my emails, I went through a online class called Success Wise, and it was really good on the marketing side, but really developing that more personal aspect into my emails.
Hmm.
Um, that's been huge, to bring in the personal stories more and things like that. My virtual assistant who does my social media. She wants, of course, more videos to put onto the reels, put onto the personal stories. And I've been terrible about that. I'll be honest, over the years, getting those testimonies and videos and things like that. So if I can encourage you to do that right up front, you're going to be way ahead of me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people, I think, have an irrational fear of the camera as if it's going to be harmful in some way. And it's really not. It's so helpful to your business. So,
It really
yeah.
is. And the public speaking,
Yes.
that's one thing I'm actually not afraid of. It's kind of one of my favorite things is public speaking, but translating it to video is a totally different,
Hmm.
it's a totally different thing. I'll be honest,
Yes,
you know,
it is.
and yeah, to get people into these things, and I have to do more videos, and I'm like, you know, why use 100 words when 1,000 are nice? You know, I mean, so I've had to, you know, those 1 minute reels, and, you know, trying to figure out how to hit the point. And, you know, I, I've struggled with that, and I'm
Hmm.
getting better. I'm working on it. I'm getting better. So on my Dunamis Marriages Facebook page, I'm trying to do like a little live once a week um, discussion point so people can start
Yeah.
discussing. But it's hard to get in
Right.
there.
It is. It is. But that is the time that we are in at this point where so many people want it and they want it fast, they want it quick. So it's a matter of how can I get my point across, get it said well,
Mhm.
and get it quickly. So
Yes.
yes, it is all those
It is
things. So
tough. It
for
is all
sure.
those things. And, you know,
Yes.
and then speaking of having to pivot too, Zoom counseling, that was a huge pivot with COVID for me because I never liked it. I never thought it was effective as having somebody in my office, having them come in, go on a destination with me or something like that. But I have really developed the Zoom counseling to where I'm able to come across and to make it more effective and all that as well. So that was a huge
I'm
shift
sure.
for me.
Because
So
with the line of work that you do, you're used to having that close proximity so that that you can't really get in a digital
mhm.
world unless you have spent some time to make it happen. So
Yes, and we've
I
got
can
all the
see that.
technical problems. I've been in the middle
Hmm.
of sessions, boom, we're done. Everything just
Yes.
crashed. The other
Oh, I
day,
know all about that.
yeah, I bet. The other day I'm
Yeah.
in counseling with a person. I dug into some things very quickly. She starts to fall apart, and I'm like, you know, this is where I wish I was in the same room with you
Right.
because I would touch you.
So hard.
I would give you that presence, and I would, you know,
Yes.
so just imagine I'm there and I'm doing that for you because,
Yes.
you know, and you have to explain a lot, you know, sometimes I can't hear what somebody said, you know, I have to have them, especially when I have two people on.
Repeat
That's,
something or
yeah,
yes,
I'm really sorry. But, you
absolutely.
know, and that used to annoy me, but now it just has become part of the flow. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yes,
getting,
because we're all pivoting. We've
Mhm.
been forced to pivot in some ways because of
We
things that
have,
have gone on. Yes.
but it's
Um,
opened up my ability to help people from all over. So,
yes. And that's what it's done for so
yeah,
many
yeah.
businesses. Instead of you being kind of stuck with just your surroundings, now it has opened up to a world
Mhm.
of possibilities, literally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally. Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and close this up. And I know you were
Yes.
mentioning some things about how people can reach, but can you get a little more details of how can people get in touch with you?
Well, they can, of course, go to the website, which is dunamosmarriages.com. My personal email is Dr. Pauline, DrPauline, but it's at dunamoscenter.com. I haven't gotten that rolled over. And the phone number here is 719-231-7183. So feel free to contact me via email. You can call, leave a message. I'll just let you know I have two offices though. So if I don't get your phone message right away, it's because I haven't been at this office. So, um, but yeah, please feel free to email me, ask any questions you have. I get my own emails. I answer my own emails. So nobody else is going to see if you have questions for me.
And you did mention Facebook, so you do have a Facebook
Yes,
group?
I do. I Dunamis Marriages. I have a Facebook page. I have a LinkedIn page as well. And there is an Instagram page for Dunamis Marriages. I'll just tell you though, we've had trouble with getting that going, but we're
Okay,
really working on getting the connections and getting things coming up on the Instagram as well. That's just in process.
yes. I'm the same way with Instagram as well. I'm much better on Facebook. So
Yeah.
do you have any like last comments that you wanted to make sure that we touched on before we close up?
I think I really covered everything I was hoping to be able to cover, but I just really want to encourage you again to please just step in the shallow end if you have to, and just kind of, wade out into the deep end. And don't be afraid to ask for help or get somebody like Sharon to help you with the process, because it was like, it made a huge difference having somebody look at every stage, everything I was working on, and give me input on this is not going to work that way, or people aren't going to respond well, or and they'd had to talk to me a lot about what you said. Who are you? Don't be afraid to tell people, why are you better
That's
than
right.
everybody else?
That's right.
Yeah, so I'm still working on it, but do it.
Yes. Just know that you are awesome.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I want to thank everyone for joining in on this. I know you're going to be watching us, and you're going to learn so much because she's given us so much information here. But I want to just remind you that I am Sharon. I am with About My Sister's Biz, and you can find me on Facebook. Like I said, look for my free
Mhm.
private Facebook group that's for Christian women leaders at About My Sister's Biz. I also have a public page that I do a little bit with, but I just keep my focus mostly on the private group for women. And
Yeah,
also you can reach me at aboutmysistersbiz@gmail.com. And thank you again, Dr. Colleen, for
you're
joining us
welcome.
today. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
I have learned a lot myself.
Good.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.